The end of the story is here, and Horikoshi has crafted something that has been an incredible journey. But what about the questions left unanswered? I think there's still room for a little theory crafting, and today I wanted to talk about whether Deku will get the use of One for All back. Let's get into it. In Chapter 423, we saw what everyone is assuming to be the climactic end of the war against AFO and Shigaraki. Deku was literally able to punch Shigi into oblivion by slowly forcing his own one-for-all quirk into Shigi's soul, fracturing the villain's body and making it so AFO was unable to control the power of All for One and One for All together. This all came to head when some of the previous vestiges of One for All plus Shigaraki came together to deliver one final smackdown, finally eliminating AFO and seemingly the quirk factor of OFA, or at the very least, the first user, Yoichi. However, I think there is enough evidence that we can theorize on what will happen next for Deku and the possibilities of him receiving his quirk back. In Chapter 423, we see Deku transfer the last, most barest embers of OFA into Shigi, which awakens the vestige of Yoichi as he begins to talk to AFO about what is happening around them. Yoichi states, "What Deku conceived for us here is our final salvation at the end of it all." Meaning this should be it. This is the final bit of power Deku had to transfer over to shake the foundations of Shigi. That is when we get a shot of Deku and the previous users attacking AFO. What is interesting is that in the art of the panel, if we look at Deku, he doesn't have any sign of full cowling or lightning. He is just shown to be badly damaged and using his own strength, which would make sense. He has given the last of his power away and there should be nothing left. However, if we take a look at the very last panel of the chapter, we see Deku striking his pose as Shigi explodes into a million pieces, but we also see, that's right, we also see lightning surrounding Deku, reminiscent of his full cowling. Now, one could very easily argue that it's a artistic choice. However, right before the last panel, we get a sequence of Deku and Shigi having their final moments to bro it out. The sequence starts out with Deku's bloody fist coming into contact with Shigi's decaying, but also bloody hand. One thing to note is that the symbol of hands has always been important to My Hero Academia, and Hori has gone out of his way to state in several interviews their importance and how he has really tried to push himself as an artist in drawing them. So how poetic would it be that if the thing that gives Deku his quirk back is the coming together of two battered hands, two people finally able to see each other eye to eye. Now, this all hinges on one factor though. This fist bump has to have taken place in the real world. It's the only way that any of this makes sense. Why? Because we know OFA needs to be willingly given to a person through the transfer of DNA. It cannot, as far as we know, be handed off between vestiges and previous users. So, alright, it has to have happened in the real world. Well, what's the issue? Well, Hori, for all his good intentions, gives us what is probably one of the weakest expositions between Deku and Shigi in the entire arc. It's entirely too short, and I mean, it serves its purpose, but it also very much causes an issue. We see Deku and Shigi talking about how Shigi was able to destroy what matters and he fades away. Awesome. The problem is during the conversation we see Deku and Shigi fist bumping and Deku is clearly not in the same state as he was just moments before. Meaning this is taking place in a vestige world or their minds. Now, why is that a bad thing? Well, cut to what I just said like 20-30 seconds ago. Because we know OFA needs to be willingly given to a person through the transfer of DNA. But for the sake of this video, I think we're going to look at things with a positive light. This might actually help our theory. Deku does have a look of shock initially, like he's surprised to be in the vestige world, which can mean that the initial fist bump takes place in the real world, and the bro out finishes in the vestige world as Deku gets his quirk back. Or if we're negative, we could say it's confusing and slightly sloppy from a writer who has, until recently, been on a really great roll. Let's take the positive route though. If Deku does receive OFA at the end of the story, this is actually the safest way to end things. It's narratively the most likely and wraps everything up nicely with a nice bow made of feel-goods and expectations. We started this journey with Deku telling us that this is the story of how him and his friends became the greatest heroes, as in currently still the greatest. So narratively, it would be perfectly within Hori's wheelhouse to end the story this way. But I propose maybe let's spice things up. OFA comes back to Deku and he gains the ability to use the quirk as he did before. However, we saw that Yoichi, the vestige, is gone. And in fact, when you look at the chapter, only 5 vestiges come together to strike AFO, meaning we're missing some. And in the previous panel, only 5 vestiges plus Shiggy spring from the dark. So if Deku does get OFA back, I propose it will be a significantly lessened version of the quirk, with Deku only having access to what appears to be Gear Shift, Vajin, Black Whip, Float, and Smokescreen. Danger Sense, All Might, and Yoichi's vestiges are missing. But what if he doesn't get OFA? What if Hori flipped the lid completely and gave Deku something different? Something that would make the story come full circle. What if Deku gets AFO? I know this feels like nonsense, but there is actually evidence to suggest this. Hori went out of his way in chapter 408 for Yoichi to state that the ability to give and take could have been the kindest, most charitable power the world has ever known. Why would Hori go out of his way to describe the quirk of one of the most vile villains that way? Well, what if Big Brain Hori was setting it up so that he could circle back and give Deku, who is in present time considered the greatest of the greatest heroes, the greatest, most kindest quirk? I don't know, just something to chew on. I'm mostly invested in this final theory. When Yoichi is speaking to AFO, he mentions that Deku completed his plan of transferring the quirks over to Shiggy, and when he did, he was able to complete One for All as we were meant to be. What if that means he was able to fully combine the 2 quirks of AFO and OFA, and that's how Deku was able to complete One for All? One for All, the quirk, was originally in its most basic form a stockpiling quirk given to Yoichi by his brother, meaning it was originally AFO's to give. So what if, when Deku completed the transfer, the 2 quirks fused together, creating something completely new, and with Yoichi's ability to bestow quirks, this is what we see happening at the end of the chapter. Personally, I would love to see this happen. I think it would be the most interesting and full circle way for Hori to finish up the story while also keeping his themes of perseverance, determination, and friendship intact. It would allow for Shiggy's legacy to continue while also taking care of the fact that we are potentially losing the baggage that is the previous vestiges. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, once again, please feel free to like and subscribe. We are going to find out the answers really soon, like within the next couple days, so I don't know why I'm putting this video out so late, but anyways, thanks for watching guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Bye.